We begin tonight with breaking news from Northport. An elderly Northport man who went missing 3 weeks ago has been found dead. Northport police say Lavert Richardson was discovered in the crawl space under his home. Investigators had asked to meet with Richardson's son, who arrived in town today from California. Part of the floor was caved in and revealed a crawl space in the area under the bathroom. Richardson's body was found several feet under that crawl space. Police say the state's forensic department will examine the body. Richardson was 89 years old. A big development in the race to cure HIV is hitting close to home for one family in Tuscaloosa. WVUA's Jennifer Edwards spoke with the Dreyfus family who adopted a child from Africa with HIV. She joined us now in the studio with more. Jennifer.
Thanks, Lynn. Tim and Anna Dreyfus already had 3 kids, but felt a calling to adopt one more. They were led to Ethiopia, then to a child with HIV. Both say they wouldn't have it any other way. Meet Cooper. He is the 2-year-old son of Tim and Anna Dreyfus and the brother of 3 siblings. Cooper was born with HIV.
We sought out a child with HIV when we sought to adopt, because we learned that there's children over in other countries. I mean, Ethiopia was one, there's others, that don't have access to the medical care we have here. Dreyfus says Cooper visits a doctor every 4 months and takes medicine twice a day. It's the medicine, he says, that's made a world of a difference. When we brought Cooper home, even though he was on medicine in Africa, in Ethiopia, his viral load was at 690,000, okay? An undetectable level is below 50. And over a year's time of taking medicine daily, he's down below 50. And that's considered undetectable, meaning they know it's there, but it's virtually not there. Dreyfus says as Cooper gets older, he may only have to take his medicine once a day. But hearing news like the toddler from Mississippi who was functionally cured without treatment gives them hope for Cooper's future, as well as the future of orphans with HIV. We're excited to hear that because, you know, there's an opportunity to potential on down the line for there to be a cure, and we've always thought, haven't we? Always thought maybe there'll be a cure one day. But regardless, where he's at right now, he's at the same health level as that child. So many people pass over children with HIV, and we understand why, but we also try to encourage people all the time that, I mean, that was out of our adoption, probably out of everything out of our adoption, that was the easiest part. Cooper was also diagnosed with cerebral palsy. His parents say his CP has been harder to deal with than the HIV. They say they're trying to educate the community about HIV to help reduce the stigma around it. Lynn?
Thanks, Jennifer. The lack of a decision from lawmakers on the sequester is leaving many federally funded organizations with possible cutbacks. Friday was the deadline for lawmakers to make a decision on the sequester, but they never made a deal. Head Start in West Alabama is one of the places that could see some deep spending cuts. Community Service Programs of West Alabama administers Head Start. The program director says staff cutbacks, a shorter school year, and eliminating certain services are all up for discussion. But he says whatever changes happen, the staff will still be focused on the children.
Parents need to understand that when these actions, these fiscal actions, are taken, that it has nothing to do with our desire to shortchange anybody. It is of necessity. We can only go as far as the money will allow us to go. And most of our finances for Head Start are tied into personnel. 75 to 80% of the personnel of our money is through this personnel costs.
Palmer says he's been in meetings this week and there are more meetings to come. No word yet on when and if any of these changes could go into effect. On your Health Watch tonight, why are women starting to live shorter lives? A new study shows women 75 and younger are dying at higher rates, especially here in the South. WVUA anchor Terry Brewer joins us now live in our studio to tell us more. Hey, Terry, what are the doctors saying?
Thank you, Lynn. Experts say this study is the latest to spot the pattern, especially among white women at lower incomes. But the question of why is still there. Experts say there are some things you can do to up your chances of living a longer life. Quitting smoking, eating right, and getting the right preventative health care screenings are just some of the things. A local health and wellness expert says in some ways you can control how quickly your body ages.
If you have a healthier lifestyle, you're going to slow down the chronological aging process of your body. If you have an unhealthy lifestyle, you're going to accelerate the chronological aging process of the body.
All right.
Murphy says exercising is a big part of it as well, and it's important to be educated about your personal health. Murphy says all of these things can help women live longer, healthier lives. Lynn?
Thank you, Terry. Alabama's seafood industry is looking at ways to reel in more business. Experts say they've lost $100 million each year since the BP oil spill back in 2010. So today, industry leaders met as part of the Alabama Seafood Summit to look at ways to drive up interest. Trade officials, seafood buyers, and representatives from the restaurant industry are all taking part. The goal is for the state to regain its market share. International news just starting to unfold. The Venezuelan government says the country's president, Hugo Chavez, has died. Chavez was 58 years old. Supporters visited churches earlier today to pray for his health. Yesterday, the government said Chavez had a severe respiratory condition. The socialists ruled Venezuela for more than 14 years, gradually placing all state institutions under his personal control. The nation's vice president will now take over. Meanwhile, back here in the U.S., those federal spending cuts are starting to go into effect. Lawmakers are back in Washington and talking about what comes next. Emily Schmidt has the latest from the nation's capital.
Washington's weather forecast calls for clear skies to give way to a winter snowstorm, a bit like the budget cut predictions flying through the air.
It will hurt people's lives. People's lives will be turned upside down.
This is the first full week since the mandatory budget cuts began Friday, and party talking points sound familiar.
This is no way to run a government. But until the president gets serious about the serious structural spending problem that we have, we're going to have to deal with it.
This has become, as I've said in the past, the new normal for our Republican colleagues.
The FAA said Tuesday it will close 173 air traffic control towers at small and medium-sized airports on April 7th. The first furlough notices have hit. The Army warned some workers they'll face a 20% pay cut for 5 months. On Capitol Hill, the U.S. Special Operations Commander predicts an eventual readiness problem.
I'm already cutting 60% of my flying hours back in CONUS. I'm reducing also some of my deployments, about 20% of my deployments going forward.
There's another potential roadblock. Government funding runs out March 27th unless lawmakers act. House Speaker John Boehner says the House will pass that bill this week.
Spending is the problem here in Washington, and our goal is to cut spending, not to shut the government down.
There's already disagreement.
I myself will be voting against this resolution.
Weather forecasts here predict 50-degree temperatures quickly following the snow. A political thaw may take more patience. In Washington, I'm Emily Schmidt.
There is some good economic news today. The Dow closed at a record high, beating the previous high set back in October 2007 before the financial crisis and the Great Recession.